Hi, I'm Alex Galloway, and I'm here with Anna and Neal, who served in Afghanistan for 10 years and have had a lot of experience navigating risk. Anna wrote a book called Facing Danger, excellent book on how to navigate risk. And Neal has also put together a 2-day workshops to help people experientially figure out some of those important concepts that they've learned over the time. And I have the privilege of being able to interview them here and now to see if you can help us in light of the current circumstances that we're in. In particular, though, I would like to focus on these 8 months of being on lockdown that you two experienced and see if there's some things we might be able to glean from the two of you from that time. I know it's not exactly the same, but I'd love to hear just a couple of things that you feel like might be helpful to us in this time that you learned while you were on lockdown.
Sure. Yeah, well, it definitely was something that we had to manage. How do we cope with all of the added stress of being in lockdown? And I think for me, I remember that the things that I gravitated toward naturally weren't the most helpful. They were things that I had done just throughout my life that helped me to cope, not bad things, but they weren't truly restorative things either. They just sort of distracted me from the stress of the moment. And so I had to kind of evaluate what is actually something that gives me energy, that restores my energy, that just doesn't distract me temporarily from what I was facing. Yeah.
I think for me, two things come to mind. One is, how do you keep perspective and not just either drown in self-pity or in bad personal habits when you're just at home all the time and you can't change your situation, you don't have control. And so I just recall really having to work at perspective, and I would do a self-evaluation. Which part of myself needs help right now? It's not always spiritual, but I definitely had to work at a spiritual perspective that God's in control and this didn't take him by surprise and he has a purpose for it. But do I need food? Do I need sleep? Do I just need a cup of coffee and to call a friend right now?
Yeah.
Do I just need chocolate? Something that will feel luxurious in a difficult situation. So those are the perspective, and then trying to answer what is it that I need right now that will help me have a better perspective.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult to stay attentive to ourselves, particularly when we're a family, because you're concerned about your children, your spouse, and sometimes it's even easier to be more concerned about them than paying attention to ourselves.
Yes.
How did you all navigate just the ongoing stress of being on lockdown as a family?
That's a good question.
Well, one of the things that really helped me is I noticed that Anna, she put energy into just helping our children have normal life during that time. So we did live in sort of a walled compound area, and it was a place of safety, and she could really make it a refuge for our kids. So much so, and our children at that time were 8, 7, 5, and they look back on those days with just great memories, and just it was a wonderful time for them. And she even found a way to get a pool to put in it wasn't a very large pool, but it was something to sort of distract them from not being able to visit friends as much, but just to enjoy the summer at that time and be out. I think about that even today, that our children look back at those as being some of the best times they've ever had. So just to maximize, well, if we're going to be together and confined, what kind of positive things can we do? And Anna did a great job of just really nurturing the environment for them.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I mean, we can go through this poorly, or we can go through it well. So what would you rather do? And the one that is poorly, you're not putting in a lot of effort or work at it. So I do recall at one point saying to our daughter, okay, honey, you and I really we don't care about football. I'm talking about American football, not the other. And so I'm like, we're going to go out there. We're going to try to learn to throw the football with our boys. And so that's what we did. So we'd have family football time, and I don't think she's thrown it since. That's okay. But I think one thing that I must have learned early on is creating the home and paying attention to smell and sight and emotional temperament. So even here today and during this month of lockdown, I will light the candles if I sense there's depression, whether myself or a kid in the house. I'm baking cookies slightly more frequently. And, just what other scents can we have going on in the house that gives a lighter mood to the house, lighting the lights, even though we're obviously care about the electrical bill. But these are psychologically, it's cheaper to have a higher electrical bill than to pay for counseling.
Yeah. That's true. Well, speaking of counseling, I know for my wife and I, just struggling through just the tension of the time, and even with our children too, it just becomes a little overwhelming to navigate. And I think it sounds like you were really good at being able to create a refuge for your children. But the parents, though, are trying to still navigate the risk of all the stuff that's going on. And sometimes you're not always on the same page. So we've thought about, gosh, maybe we need to get some counseling just to help us navigate this ourselves. How did you all do that as a couple, navigate both the stress and I'm guessing even different levels of risk?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we always did it well either. I found myself that I was ill-equipped for managing the high-risk situation because everything I had been taught, and in fact, even within the organization, the reason why I was given more and more responsibilities was because I had shown some competency and good decision-making, and that just meant that I was able to weigh pros and cons and solve problems. But risk isn't that type of environment. It's really about managing tensions, and sometimes equal tensions that my gut, my intuition, perhaps even sometimes the voice of the spirit would be telling me one thing, but the data and the logic would be saying something else. And how do you manage the tension of data that's saying do this for safety when my gut's saying actually this over here is what I'm being called to do or need to do, and it can be different. How do I manage that tension?
Yeah.
And then sometimes we're at different places that way. That Anna's at a place where she's feeling the other side has more value. That's a real opportunity to demonstrate grace. But when you're under stress, it's hard to do that. Extend grace to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can recall in the sense of maybe I'm having a lot of stress and he and I are still trying to work that out. But we both realized pretty quickly that if we have some unprocessed stress, we would very easily take it out on each other and the children. So for us, that was, we needed to pay attention to the warning signs and then address it quickly. And even though the COVID virus is not a Muslim, we're not in a situation where people are out to kill us right now, but the virus could enter the home and it seems like it could kill you. It seems like that's what it's, a dangerous virus. So in that sense, still the same idea of keeping short accounts and working things out because we never know. And like my husband's mom was just hospitalized today with no warning. We didn't know, and we don't know what's wrong yet. And of course we can't go. So keeping those short accounts are helpful and paying attention to the warning signs. But there was plenty of times when my children said, "Mommy, what's wrong?" because they saw the tears. And I couldn't tell the children the total truth. I could just say only, "Mommy's sad, but it's okay. I'll be okay." And so being honest to an extent with where you're at.
with the children. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So not completely sheltering them from all that's going on, but allowing them to enter in maybe in age-appropriate ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I like that too, being able to extend grace to one another, keeping short accounts, and even just the reality of, like you said, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where somebody you love is unavailable to you. You want to be able to say,
Right.
yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Well, that's really helpful. Well, you may have saved us a counseling bill. Really grateful for your input on this. Yeah, appreciate your time. Blessings on the two of you.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Alex.
much,
Good to be
Alex.
with you.
Great.
Take care.